Hello, how are you? Many people still think that the intestine is just a tube where food passes through, where nutrients are absorbed and then excreted the final product. But when the intestine is inflamed, it can have very serious repercussions for our health. We know that an unregulated, inflamed intestine can worsen immunity, deregulate glucose, block weight loss, sabotage mood, inflame the entire body. The intestine is a highly differentiated neuroendocrine organ. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the 7 main silent signs that your intestine gives you, saying it's not working well and might be inflamed. You need to watch this video. Many people underestimate these signs. Stay until the end because you won't want to miss it. Before we start, I want to ask you how old you are. Do you worry about your gut? Is there anything you do in your daily life to improve, to protect your gut health? Write it for me down here in the comments. The first sign, and it's very impressive, most people don't know that this is related to an inflamed gut, is the craving for sweets and carbohydrates. If you feel a daily compulsion like that for sugar, it's not always a lack of willpower that is impacting you the most, but it could really be related to the bacteria that control exactly your gut-brain axis. The gut communicates with our mind through the vagus nerve, hormones, and metabolites that are produced by the microorganisms living there in our gut, right? Bacteria and yeasts that live there. Certain bad bacteria and fungi need pure sugar to survive. They love sugar. It is their preferred food. So when they are in the majority, they send chemical signals precisely through the vagus nerve and hijack your brain's reward center, generating exactly that desire, that craving for sweets. Furthermore, an inflamed gut decreases the production of satiety hormones like GLP-1, which is so talked about regarding weight loss pens, and peptide YY, making you feel hungry prematurely and have a continuous desire for sweets to snack all afternoon at night, that uncontrollable craving for sweets. Have you ever felt this? Write to me down here in the comments. The second sign, which is also quite incredible, is that chronic tiredness, that brain fog. There are people who manage to sleep 7-8 hours a night, but wake up feeling like they were hit by a truck, just joking around. They feel a tiredness, a real fatigue that doesn't go away, and that feeling of brain fog, that concentration is poor, memory fails. And the explanation, in fact, can be neuroscientific, right? Because gut inflammation breaks the intestinal barrier and releases these inflammatory cytokines, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin-1, interleukin-6 into the bloodstream. And these inflammatory molecules cross the blood-brain barrier, generating neuroinflammation and oxidative stress that shuts down our brain's energy. So, a chronically inflamed and intoxicated gut can indeed tire out, slow down, and diminish your brain's functioning. So this is a very important point for you to pay attention to. There is also another very important point, which is the decrease in the effectiveness of the immune system. There are people who, for anything, get a cold, tonsillitis, candidiasis, herpes, and take weeks to recover from a virus that someone else caught and resolved super simply, right? More than 70% of all the cells in our immune system live and interact directly on the walls of the intestine, called GALT, G-A-L-T. If this intestinal barrier is damaged by exacerbated inflammation, the immune system can become overloaded and focused on fighting these toxins that enter through digestion. So it leaves the rest of the body more unprotected, precisely against viruses and bacteria. So it is important to reduce inflammation in the gut to strengthen immunity. Remember that I have a playlist here talking more about immunity, how to boost it naturally. I'll leave it down here in the description for you. Another sign of intestinal inflammation has to do with constipation or being completely irregular. There are people who go days without having a bowel movement or produce very dry stools in the shape of little balls, like goat droppings as we call it. And this can be an inflammatory sign for the gut. Slow intestinal transit greatly increases the contact time of stool with the intestine, so it strongly stimulates the rehydration of the intestine through this stool, and the drying out of this stool. And this is also harmful because these toxic residues, which are naturally present there in the byproduct of our metabolism, which should be eliminated, remain in contact with this mucosa, which is so delicate in the intestine, potentially leading to the reabsorption of toxins into our bloodstream. And the opposite also ends up being true, right? Because frequent episodes of diarrhea or diarrhea and constipation can lead to a more irritated, inflamed mucosa and the actual inability to properly absorb water and nutrients. So this is a very classic sign that the intestine is more inflamed than it should be. Another sign that is more classic and more chronic is when the belly is bloated, when you have abdominal distension. When we wake up with a normal, flatter belly, and throughout the day, even eating little, the abdomen gets harder, bloated, and visibly more swollen? This is because dysbiosis favors the proliferation of pathogenic bacteria that ferment carbohydrates, right? I told you they love sugar. So it really accelerates this digestion, this fermentation, and produces an absurd amount of gases like hydrogen, methane, carbon dioxide. So the accumulation of these gases precisely causes a painful distension, often in the wall of the intestine. So having a bloated and hard belly every day is not normal, and it is worth evaluating how your gut health is doing. Especially because another sign is precisely these excessive gases with a strong odor, right? Because when we have these gases chronically and excessively, they can generate this stronger odor. And this is a sign that you are having difficulty digesting proteins, inadequate fermentation in the colon, and could even have bacterial overgrowth of the bacterial population there in the colon. And it also shows that often you are not managing to absorb nutrients the way you should. So paying attention to your bowel movement frequency, what the visual signs of your stool are like, whether you have more or less gas, and whether it's foul smelling or not, can also be a silent sign of inflammation in your gut. So what should you do if you've noticed some signs and symptoms? The first thing is to try to nourish the good bacteria more. You already know that bad bacteria love sugar, but good bacteria love soluble fiber. So psyllium, chia, oats, flaxseed, lentils, leafy vegetables, chickpeas are good things for you to add to your daily routine. They stimulate the production of butyrate, which are short-chain fatty acids, and it is also important that you try to introduce probiotic foods such as good bacteria and yeast, which are usually found in fermented foods, kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, all those fermented oat or apple products, right? I have many recipes, and I'll leave the playlist down here in the description for you. Reduce obviously ultra-processed foods, which can increase intestinal inflammation. Prioritizing sleep and managing stress also help to improve gut health. Tell me down here then, if you knew or if you have any of these signs and symptoms, which one you were able to identify. I would love to see your comment. Remember to leave a like on the video. It really helps me a lot, and share it with someone who will enjoy it or someone who needs it. Let's grow this chain of kindness. That's what I want to do here on the channel. See you next time. Bye.